Welcome back to the channel, you crazy car content addicts. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for part 2 of me rebuilding, building, modifying, upgrading, and overall doing cool stuff with my project cars. Today, we are going to be ruining a perfectly good FD RX7 by putting plywood in the trunk. And
No! God, please, no! No!
No.
yeah, it's gonna happen, and there's nothing you can do to stop me, so stay tuned for that. On another note, we got new interior plastics, right? So center console, shifter bezel, the HVAC area, it's all 94 spec, textured stuff. We're bringing her back to original glory there. If you guys saw in the first video, we got her back up and running, right? So we had a little bit of a mishap. It's all in the past. She's running. The only thing we're waiting on is our tuner to come in here, do a couple of modifications to get her primed up for more boost, but
that rotary motor be holding me down.
all right, to the project. And to get it started, you're going to need some automotive headliner adhesive. This stuff works awesome for bonding carpet to plywood. Now, I know some of you are going to say this has to be a Home Depot commercial. There's no way you're putting plywood in the back of an RX-7. No, I absolutely am. I did the same thing in an Evo. I'm doing it here. It really cleans up the space and lets your trunk become usable again. But before we get started on that project, I got my replacement hatch struts from JP3 Motorsports. These finally came in. My factory ones have been leaking. You can see the residue. They just are old, original FD RX7 hatch struts. They don't hold up the 99 spec wing. They don't hold up the factory hatch. They don't pop the hatch. They don't do anything. At this point, they're literally useless. So I'm going to get these swapped out for you guys. I'm going to go step by step. If anyone else is going to be doing this, this is a really simple mod. Very easy to do. I've been using a cut in half broomstick with some tape to hold my hatch up while I'm working back here. So hopefully this fixes that and it makes it a little bit safer so this hatch doesn't come crashing down. All right, so the kit comes with one strut, some hardware, some stickers. Pretty straightforward here, not a lot to talk about. I don't know if they sourced these from something else or if they designed these themselves. A little bit pricey, but definitely get the job done. JP3 says they only need to purchase one to actually hold the hatch up in place. So we'll see how that goes. The hardware looks fine. It looks like a pretty simple kit. Not too much I can say about it, so we're going to go ahead and start getting these put in. All right, so we started tearing things apart, got some of the covers off, started taking the interior panel off. Be careful here. You don't want to break any of these clips. This is old 90s JDM fragile plastic. It's hard to find. We're going to be taking that bracket out right there, swapping it with the new one, using the factory hardware. Be careful. The right way to do this is to pull the whole interior apart. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. Just don't drop those bolts and you should be okay. All right, just a quick little tip here if you're doing this. It's much easier to unscrew this from the hatch than to take that ball and socket apart. It is stupid tight. So grab a 12mm wrench and just spin that off and you're going to save yourself a little bit of trouble. You don't want to break any of the plastics in the hatch either. So this is the JP3 design. I like this better. Obviously, you're not going to have to deal with that ball and socket, which is a nice little clip. I am going to have links below in the video for all the parts and products I used. Well, you know what they say. It's a bolt-in, no modifications required kit, right? Well, it never goes according to plan, at least never when modifying cars. Luckily, this is a small issue, nothing crazy, just a little tolerance of the bolt not going through the hole. All we're going to do is get a drill bit. We're going to open it up and make it fit, and that's it. And we're going to move on. Very minor compared to some of the issues you'll run into when you're modifying cars.
A few minutes later.
PSA warning number 2. Do not drop the bolts into that cavity. It is not going to be a good day for you. Don't do it. Okay? I got the bracket in, got the mount up on the hatch in, and yeah, they're really simple kit, guys. Takes minutes to put in. All right, now we're going to put JP3's bold claim to the test. Can one hatch strut hold up a hatch with a 99 spec wing? Let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and pull out this broom handle. And yeah, sure enough. All right, that's great. So for those of you guys who are wondering, yeah, you can leave one stock blown strut on the left, right, whatever side, replace the one that's blown, and you can hold up your hatch. Now, it's not going to lift up your hatch and pop like factory, but it will keep it up.
That's what she said.
Look at that, back together, and I didn't break a single clip going back in or coming out. I hope you guys have the same luck as I did just now. Tracking down clips is not what I want to be doing when working on this car. PSA warning number 3. Do not drop the bolts into the cavity. I mean, go ahead, do it. Just throw them in there and then go fish for it, and then you'll know how to take your entire interior apart. That's great. Good experience. So being the overachiever that I am, I did 2 hatch strut replacements. So let's go ahead and test and see if this actually works. 3, 2, 1. Cool. That's actually really awesome. So for those of you who are wondering, with two, not just one, with two replacement struts, you can actually pop the hatch with the 99 spec wing like factory. Install is really easy, by 15-30 minutes max. Great product, a little bit pricey though, 135 bucks a side. You guys got to work on that, JP3. Outside of that, awesome kit. All right, now we can get back to actually ruining this RX7. Jokes aside, I think this is going to come out great. So I'm going to go ahead and get these sheets pulled out. We're going to go ahead and get the adhesive laid on and get the carpet rolled on it. But underneath is pretty filthy. So while I'm cleaning this little mess here, I'm going to go ahead and roll a little B-roll of myself, my buddy, actually cutting these panels to size and making them fit in the RX7.
2 hours later.
Got to give some credit to my friend there for doing some of that labor while I got the clips. Anyway, we're going to move on to actually putting this carpet on the panel. Unfortunately, this was shipped very tight, vacuum sealed in a square, so there's some seams. We're going to do our absolute best to pull it as tight as we can to make sure those don't show through. If they do, we can always steam them out later. All right, trigger warning for anyone with OCD. I'm sure you're going to go crazy over this seam. Honestly, it will steam out later, so I'm not worried about it. It glued down. It went down fine. It's the only issue with the panel. So for right now, this is the way it's going in. All right, well, we got the panel in there. We're just going to go ahead and ignore that and look at the positive of the situation. Honestly, it fits great. We did go ahead and take the factory piece that's here. It's a 1-inch thick foam with a little bit of carpet material on it, and we laid it on top of the plywood and measured it all out, and then we scribed it and left a little bit of clearance. But yeah, I think it came out pretty awesome. We're going to move on to the next section. Would you look at this fine piece of craftsmanship right here? Look at those curves, the contours, the cutouts. Almost looks like we know what we're doing. But honestly, it turned out a lot better than I was expecting. So this should work out great. The battery's going to fit. We already tested all that. We're just going to go ahead and get this carpeted. All right, look, I know it's not pretty, but if you've ever dealt with this headliner adhesive stuff, this thing gets everywhere. It's going to get on your fingers. It's going to get on your clothes. It's going to get all over the carpet where you didn't want it because nozzle sprays a random pattern. Anyway, it's there. It's structural. It's functional. It's glued down and it's not coming off, and that's all that matters in the back. Now, I will say the front does look pretty awesome. All right, that took a little bit longer than expected, but I'd say we're probably 90% there. We got the seam out, which is great, but as you can tell, it's not sitting perfectly flush. Gonna have to take the back panel off and cut some carpet along that edge. It's always gonna be trial and error when it comes to modifying cars, especially when you're doing something custom like this. That carpet right there wouldn't let anything sit level, so we went ahead and trimmed it down, cleaned it up nice, and now it sits perfectly flush. We are spot on. All right, I'm going to call it a wrap for today. I think this came out great. The trunk looks awesome. The hatch is floating on its own. The wing looks great. This is coming out perfect. I put the factory cargo cover back on there. It fits no problem. Battery looks good. I even added a fire extinguisher. Now, I think every car should have one that's been modified, but this is an H3R performance fire extinguisher. Really good quality stuff, especially for putting out car fires. Anyway, let's move on to the next part. All right, before you start typing it, I already know someone's going to ask, what happened to the fuel pumps? Yes, I swapped the fuel pumps. I know we had a failure. That's been swapped. In fact, I ran new relays, rewired the whole setup. We are good to go. In fact, that's why I had a 2-piece trunk, because I wanted to be able to access this in case it happens again in the future. Finally, time for some custom gauge goodness. So we're running an Innovate wideband and an Innovate fuel pressure gauge. Obviously, we're a little bit paranoid about the fueling situation, but we've got a good clean ground, good power, good signal, and all we have to do now is clean up the wiring. All right, so we ran the wideband and the fuel pressure gauge signal wires through some heat loom. Usually this is used for spark plug wires, etc., but since we're running it kind of close to the downpipe, we wanted to make sure that it was protected. All right, back at it. Cleaned up as much as I could, wrapped everything in Tessa tape, checked all the power, ground, and switch leads, made sure everything's run correctly. The only thing we have left to do now is test functionality. Now, I know some people are going to be asking, what is Tessa tape? It's essentially a cloth-based electrical tape. Great alternative. It's used to wrap engine harnesses from the factory. These are the switches I used. I'm going to have links in the description below for every product I use on this project, so you guys can get them as well. Sorry guys, video files got corrupted, so here's a little slideshow of the gauge pod coming together through the different stages. Oh, look at that. Maybe I can keep pretending that I actually know what I'm doing. The gauges actually worked. All right, I'm going to wrap up the video here. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end. I'm happy with how this turned out. I'm really happy that the wing is staying up on its own. You know, it's the little things. But if you guys like this type of content, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you guys doing a similar project? Do you think I've ruined my RX7 by doing this? I really appreciate any feedback that you guys provide, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Yeah, part 3 is when this stuff decides to stop.